Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Shri Sadguru Bhyo Namaha. Shri Paramaguru Bhyo Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya. Shri Hanumate Namaha. Welcome to Daily Satsang, Nitya Satsang. Today is the 28th of February 2025. I want to offer my prostrations to all the great sages and to Paramatma, residing in the heart of every single being. With that bhavana and prarthana, we're continuing to examine the Mandukya Upanishad, verse number 1. In that verse, there is the statement, or there is that part of the verse that talks about the past, present, and the future. The explicit reference to Bhutam, Bhavat, Bhavishyat. Bhutam meaning past. This is our experience of the past, what has been in our memories, coming to the present moment, which is Bhavat is present. Bhavishyat is what is yet to be. And what it says there is that these three realms of events and entities, they certainly have their historical character, no doubt about that. But they are subsumed under the singular principle of Om, or the Aksharam, the imperishable, undying reality. So we have three time periods that we are able to recognize. Bhutam, meaning the past. Bhavat is the present. And Bhavishyat is what is yet to be. Now, these distinctions are not merely descriptive, but serve as conceptual tools. Now, I want to go very carefully here in this analysis now of this verse, and particularly these 3 points, these three past, present, future, right? So let's go step by step. So the Upanishadic hermeneutical description reveals that the designations of time are not merely descriptive, but serve as conceptual tools. They structure our understanding of existence, language, and self-identity. See, we exist. Isn't it so? We have existence right now. We have an understanding of our existence as an individualized being, having a specific self-identity. We also are using language. So these distinctions that are made, they are made within the segment of time. They are ultimately a cognitive and linguistic superimposition or imposition upon the fluid nature of reality. Meaning what? Let's look at our life. Every single hour that passes, there's changes. It's a fluid nature of reality. What we see as reality is fluid, just like a stream, right? Stream of water, it keeps changing. You look at the stream at one point, you look at the same point again, new water is there, something new is there. Our reality is fluid. This much should be very clear. See, this has a lot of great benefit in terms of living a liberated life, by recognizing that the entire reality of the Jagrat Avastha, Swapna and Shushupti Avastha, and the nature of time itself, there is fluidity to it. It's fluid. Okay? That would mean that there is a dimension of reality in which the triadic distinctions lose their absolute grip. The triadic distinction is the past, present, future, Jagra, Sapna, Shushupti, etc. This triadic distinction, it loses the grip on the Jivatma, or the Jivatma is not revolving only based on that triadic experience. Even though the experience is ongoing, even the experience is going to go on. If the past, present, and future are conceptual forms imposed by human cognition, the question arises, what lies beyond these divisions? if it is so that our brain, our mind, our cognitive ability is what's creating past, present, future, because I think if you go into neuroscience, as well as many of the modern research studies that have been done with meditation, you would find very clearly that our sense of the past, what we are in the present, what we are thinking about in the future, this is a function of the brain. It is cognitive science. It is imposed by cognitive cognition or human cognition. And then if that's the case, assuming that that's the case, which we would probably have to say, yes, that is the case, then what? What lies beyond these divisions? So the Mandukya Upanishad carefully articulates that Om, as encompassing and transcending temporal distinctions, directs attention to a state or principle beyond to a principle of being unconditioned by temporal categories. The principle of being, the Atma Tattvam, who you are, the Shiva Tattva, the consciousness itself, the Brahman itself, that Tattva that is unchanging, that is Sat Chit Ananda, that is being, B-E-I-N-G, that is unconditioned by temporal categories. इसी को ही हम क्या कहते हैं, आत्मज्ञान और आत्म साक्षात्कार. जिसको ब्रह्म का साक्षात्कार हुआ है, साक्षात्कार means realization. I am this reality, not this entanglement in the three. Those three are there: the physical, subtle, causal, sthul, sukshma, karan, sattva, rajtam, and the waking, jagra, swapna, sushupti. 3. We've said it so many times. They are going to be there. There's no question. But it doesn't mean we are necessarily going to be entangled inside those layers of reality. That fluid reality around us, first of all, to recognize that it is fluid, it is changing from one thing to another. Yes. Are we to perform actions in that reality with sanity and clarity and harmony and all that? Obviously. No question. But the Upanishad is talking about awakening into that fourth state of consciousness. That is the actual unconditioned truth, the Nitya Tattva, Nitya Shashvataha, Nityam Shashvatam, so Nityaha Shashvataha Akshara Brahmaha. So Nitya means that which always is. This ये जो शरीर जो दिखता है, हमारा जो शरीर है, वो नित्य नहीं है. It is there. Atma Tattva is Nitya. But to realize the Atma Tattva, Brahma Tattva, which is a very advanced realization. Even we were in our other programs when we talk about comparative religions and things like that. Even in the Bible, there's no real description of any Atman or anything like that. There's just mind. They have stopped there pretty much. That God is there, God has created everything, there's mind and that's all. Atma ki baat clear nahi hai isme. Not in the 66 books of the Bible. Sanatan Dharma mein jo Upanishad ka gyan hai, Vedic gyan hai, Bhagavad Gita ka jo gyan hai, it is absolutely clear that Atma Tattva is there. It is right. It's stated that way. But it's not stated, I mean, this is only Sachin's commentary. It's not stated just because some rishis imagined it. Aisa kuch hai. Aisa nahi hai. It is a matter of realization. To actually delve, to have the courage to go inside in meditation. That's why the rishis did this internal research. They went into the caves. They went into the mountains. They became one with nature. It was very difficult, It's not... You're just diving into the depths of your own being. And from there, there's these layers of reality open up, all the way up to the Brahman. That is how the Sanatana Dharma began. And then the revelations came. Those higher layers of reality open up. That's where the mantras came from. The Ved mantra, and in fact, the Upanishads are also part of the Ved mantra only. They're at the end of the Vedas. Where did they come from? They are revelations. So the rishis, in the mind of the rishi, the sparking of these truths comes about in the form of mantra, in the form of omkar, Omkar comes, and then from there, the whole structure of the Sanskrit language, which is not a language so much, it's a language, but it is sounds that are put together that are the same as that ultimate reality. It's not just a language, So it's something much more than that. See, like the word Nitya, right? Or the word Aksharam, Shar and Aksharam. The sound itself is the reality. So the sound is at our level. The reality is beyond all sounds. Right? So even Om, when we say Om, 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 that's a sound that is spoken by through the human mechanism. Okay, fine. But that sound, which is spoken at our level within the three states, with this body, etc., it is going to open. It can open the doorway into the Brahman. That is why the Vedas were revealed. They were revealed into the mind of the rishis. There's a whole mechanism. There's a whole transcendental way that had happened, the way it is described. And from the Vedas, from those revelations of the Veda mantras, the teaching, the transmission from generation to generation was oral of the mantras. That's the history behind it. These Upanishads were also transmitted. They were all orally transmitted up to the point of Vedavyasji. Then he wrote them down and he classified the Vedas into four parts. The Rigved, Yajurved, Samved, Atharvaved. He classified them. And then there's lots of scriptures that came out of that. But where does it come from? It comes from Omkar. So even if nothing else survives, God forbid that ever happens, but if only Omkar survives, just that knowledge of Omkar, and the people start doing sadhana, at some point this entire Sanatan Dharma can be regenerated just from the Omkar. It can be reached because all the languages are Omkar, all the sounds, all of reality is within Omkar. The reality that we see, the Jagra Sapna Shushupti, the Bhautik Jagat, the Brahmand creation of Saguna Brahman and all, Saguna Brahman has created, it is all embedded within Akshara Brahma. But this is very, very super advanced. This is why, like even in the Sanatan Dharma, who does this exposition? There are some organizations. It's not like there are not, but there's not that many, and there's not that many people who are going to be listening to these things on exposition on Upanishad. No. People do rituals, they do some pujas and things like that, and go to temples and maybe listen to some katha, Ramayana, Bhagavatam, this and that, which is all beautiful. Sab ek hi hai. It's not like anything different. Charitras and all that. But this is like that 100% concentrated, that tattva itself. There's no other, इसमें कोई चरित्र नहीं है किसी का, इसमें कोई अवतारों का भी चरित्र नहीं है इसमें. It's not like the Upanishad is talking about Bhagwan Ram or Bhagwan Krishna, it's not like that at all. The Upanishad is talking only about Brahman. That's it. These three states, three avasthas, three gunas, or the ultimate reality, Brahma Satyam, wo Satya hai, or ye sab anitya tattva hai. This is the basic point. And then the six Mahavakyas, so the rishis are, they had progressed so far in their realization beyond these three avasthas, beyond the three gunas. They're sitting in their ashram. They're not called temples or mandir. Aisa shabda nahi hai isme. There's no deity also. There's no murti of any kind. You see, it's not like this. Not the time. That time was not like that. And in fact, the Upanishad says don't make any murti on top of that. It says that also. Nacha pratima asti. Ye bhi interesting baat hai. That don't make a murti. Then why say, why in the Sanatan Dharma so many murtis and images and ye sab kya hai? That's another discussion altogether. But the short answer to that, psychologically, the general public needs some images to concentrate on. That's one reason. The second reason is that the acharyas that came in the tradition, Sanatana Dharma, some have stated, like Shankaracharya ji, ke ultimate reality ka koi aakar hi nahi hai. Like, wo nirakar hai. Right? The interpretation, and then they wrote commentaries on. And others like Ramanuj and others stated, nahi, wo nirakar nahi hai, wo sakar hai. Wo Bhagwan is with form actually. So the acharyas that came after Shankaracharya ji, all of them stated that that the ultimate reality is with form. It was only Shankaracharya ji, he stated that it is without form. You see, so keep this point in mind also. Why? Again, it's a very extensive discussion. I've talked about it a little bit here and there, but the basic point is when we transcend Jagra Sapna Shushupti, you go in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, these forms disappear. Then that infinite consciousness is there. What the other acharyas that came, Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, Nimbarkacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Swaminarayan Bhagavan in the more recent times, and then even Ramakrishna Paramhans and others, who have come, you will see that they have accepted that there is the formless reality. But that formless Brahman, from a tattva point of view, is just the beginning of the realization of the Nitya Sakar Akar, form of the Lord. But so then that created a lot of debates over thousands of years in Sanatan Dharma. Bhagwan's ka akar hai, ultimate reality is nirakar, was this way, that way. Then it turned into a scholarly intellectual debates. That's what happened. But the focus that should be on realization can get shifted into the scholarly debates. So a lot of people got into and it happens even today. There are certain very small percentage of people who are great students of Vedanta, and they wind up in lots of these kinds of more intellectual type of activity, which is okay. I mean, that's just at the level of intellect, and that's that. I mean, there is that beautiful dialogue and discussion. Isko shastrarth kehte hain. That's called shastrarth. But that doesn't mean the realization is there. Realization ki baat bahut alag hai. I'll tell you one incident on this point. In the time of Gunatitanand Swami, in the Swaminarayan Sampradaya, this is 200 plus years back. This used to go on a lot, even in Gujarat at that time. The Shastra bahut chalta tha. So Gunatitanand Swami and a bunch of other saints, they were going to go meet with a bunch of pandits who are talking about this Advaita Vedanta, Brahmans, Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya, this and that, all so many ideas. Gunatitanand Swami went over there and he said, you guys are all talking about all this thing. It's just a lot of words. If you are real, to actually have real sthiti, ye jo sab dikhta hai na, this world outside, isme pravesh karo. Go inside that. So then Gunatitanand Swami said, aap kehte hai Brahma to main hu. And then the whole place began to dissolve and shake and all that. Everything around. He said, talking about Brahman is one thing. You can talk about it. But real Brahma sthiti mein ye jagat hi nahi hai. See, this kind of incident is there in the time of Vivekananda Swami. Vivekananda Swami had one of his grahastha householders, and he said, hey Maharaj, I want to see what is the reality. So Vivekananda Swami said, sit in meditation, and the whole, everything began. Even Vivekananda Swami dissolved. Everything dissolved into that consciousness. And, so there's an incident like this, and then when the mind became active again, it snapped back in. So Vivekananda Swami was asked, what is this? He said, that is the Brahman. There's no reality actually. There's no this Jagrata Avastha ka kuch hai nahi. That is real. So then Vivekananda Swami said to that devotee who wasn't really so much inclined to seva and all that, he just gave him a glimpse. He said, if you can stay in that state, you can go into the Himalayas and leave the world aside. Chhod do sab. Sharir bhi nahi hai, Jagrata Avastha bhi nahi, kuch nahi. And if you cannot do that, join this Ramakrishna mission and do seva. So this is how it goes. Yes, Nirvikalpa Samadhi mein Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jiva Brahman Na Paraha. Shankaracharya ji kehte hai inside his verses, obviously, but you have to also consider, even if somebody goes into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, kya ye jivan Nirvikalpa Samadhi mein jaane ke liye hi hai? Is that why we are here, just so that we don't remain here anymore? Think about that point. So again, humbly, Sachin's commentary, this Bhakta's commentary only, Siddhi commentary, that is not the point. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and Bhagwan Swaminarayan has really beautifully explained this. निर्विकल्प समाधि छोड़ो, ये बात ही छोड़ दो निर्विकल्प समाधि की, because that is not our goal. And that is, even if you go into that, even when you come out of that, again the world is going to be there, and one will still get stuck inside the world. That is a whole description in Vartal number 20, Vartal nu Vismu Vachanamrut. Amazing. There are points in which Vachanamrut mein aise point hai, you cannot imagine how amazing that is written. That Maharaj has said, he put Nirvikalpa Samadhi on the side. The Paramahansa are discussing with him, Muktanand Swami and others, Gopalan Swami. They say, Maharaj, no, how can that be? What do you mean? The whole, the 10,000 years of history is talking about Nirvikalpa Samadhi kitni mahan hai. And Maharaj kehte hai, wo mahan nahi hai. Kaisi baat hai? You will not find that in any scripture, by the way. Sachin has been studying this for years. But if you come to my place, I'll show you all these amazing books and prove this point to you. Take any scripture in the last 10,000 years in Sanatana Dharma. Only in Vachanamrut, this thing is written like this. Nowhere else. Why? Because of the facts that people have gone into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And when you come out of that, again the ichhas, again desires, again things, the worldly experience will potentially bind the individual. There are those who remain unbound also, but the worldly experience doesn't go away. No, it doesn't go away. And there are incidences of great rishis like Shobri Rishi. Shobri Rishi sat in the water for thousands of years. They say the Bhagavatam says 60,000 years tapasya unhe ki thi, aur unko sab samadhi ka sab anubhav. And then he came back into the body consciousness. And he saw the fish mating. This is the actual incident in the Bhagavatam. The fish are mating. He thought, my God, ye sab theek hai, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. He said, but this experience, the sexual experience, I have not had that. So what he did, he came out of the water. Even though after doing so much tapasya, even after going into samadhi, having all kinds of power, having all kinds of things, still these vastas, visnas, still somewhere is hidden inside there. He came out of the water, and there's a king living. There's a kingdom there, Mandata Raja, some king is there. He has all these princesses. So this is old rishi, disheveled. So what does he do? He's accumulated so much tapasya. This is the story in the Bhagavatam. Bahut kuch tapasya accumulate kiya hai. And he uses half of his tapasya to make his body young and very attractive and all that. Think about that. And then he uses the other half of the tapasya, so that he can engage in the grahast ashram with so many ladies, basically. Abhi ye tapasya itne kiya, seeing the two fish mate, isme se sab, in Gujarati we say pani ma tap karelu, pani ma gayu. The tapasya that is done in the water, wo pani mein hi gaya, sub 60,000 years wasted. Is करने की ऐसी जरूरत नहीं है. Stay in the normal frame of life with everybody. But ज्ञानी बनो, ज्ञान समाधि. भगवान स्वामीनारायण does, how beautiful. उन्होंने इतना practical बात बताई है. ये छोड़ो ही निर्विकल्प समाधि का चक्कर. Some people are crazy behind all that thing. बहुत योग करेंगे, बहुत वहाँ जाएंगे, दया करेंगे. कुछ नहीं होगा. You'll be going back to point zero again, or maybe even worse, because of the polarities. That's why J. Krishnamurti talked about this too. J. Krishnamurti he said, leave all this thing aside about running away somewhere. Enlightenment is where you are. Enlightenment is not somewhere else. It's a story of Nisarga Datta Maharaj from Maharashtra. Great saint, you can look him up. Bahut bade sant ho gaye. But he's living in Dharavi, in that village of Dharavi. In that Dharavi, he's living there. And then he has his Atmagnan, enlightenment is up, and he wants that, he's near that. He says, I have to go to the Himalaya, I have to go get away from all this thing. He's on the way, he goes. And then it strikes him. Jo Brahman ki jo baat hai, it is not a question of Himalayas, it's where I'm staying also. It's not about going somewhere where you'll get it over there. So he came back home. And he turned his home into an ashram, and he was doing his work and sadhana and everything. People from all over the world came to see him. The distinction was gone. His name is Nisarga Datta Maharaj, and he very enlightened, spoken Marathi. Huh? Amazing, total, amazing individual. And the very famous book, I Am That. So that is available. If you haven't had a chance to read that, it's available for free online. You can and there's a lot of recordings. His original Marathi recordings with the translations are there. Nisarga Datta. NISARGADATTA, निसर्गदत्त महाराज। बहुत बड़े, उनको क्या हुआ था, उनको आत्मज्ञान हो गया, रियलाइज दिस आत्मन ब्रह्मन, very similar to Raman Maharishi, this path of the Atmagnan, amazing saint. But he came back, he's just where he was. Enlightenment isn't running away somewhere. Enlightenment isn't sitting for 10 hours of dhyan and something extraordinary is just going to happen. Do that. Those are good sadhanas. We just did Mahashivratri Pujan. Karo, it's all good. But you cannot just do only that. It's not like that. Like this Upanishad says, Omkar ka dhyan. Somebody says, we want to do only Omkar dhyan for 10, 15 hours. Don't do anything else in the world. Kaun kar sakta hai? And even if you do it, what you will get out of that? How is that going to be beneficial for anybody? It's not going to be beneficial for anybody. Yeah, maybe you might realize something. You'll probably just fall right back down into the mud. That's the only thing that'll happen. Nirvikalpa samadhi ka chakkar hi chhod do. That is not a path at all for anybody, even for the yogis. When they had to come back, so many of them fell right into the drowning of the sansar. Isiliye Maharaj ne kya dikha hai beautifully. And if his life was like that too. He worked in the world. It's a whole different subject altogether. But unhone jo sant banai, they say stay in the world with the people, but stay in such a way that you are not touched by the obstacles of the world. Let me just take another one or two more points, and we'll stop here. That the living in the three avasthas, Jagra, Sapna, Shushupti, as if to say, how can I put it? Not that they're not there. They are there, but to be free in the avasthas. And the most interesting part is to be free in the transition in the avasthas. Jagrat mein se hum Shushupti mein jate hain na, us transition mein that whole transition is out of our control completely. We don't have freedom in that. But when we are evolved through all the different yogas, that transition point is yogic, not this massive amount of confusion that the brain has to deal with. That's the difference. Well, again, that's a very advanced subject, but sometime I do want to talk a little bit about it here in the morning satsang. We'll make some special talks on that one, about that transition point between Jagarat and Sushupti, and the freedom in that. That is the real goal here. It's not about just throwing the Jagrat Avastha. You cannot throw the Jagrat Avastha, and the body and Avasthas are there for some purpose, but to be free in them, to be a Jivan Mukta, and at the same time to live with the multitude of experiential existence at the Vyavarika Satyam level, that is called Gnan Samadhi. That is the goal, not Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Okay, so ये सब बहुत amazing बात है. Let's stop here for now. ओम वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा. ओम गंगणपते नमः. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः. गुरुदेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः. सर्वमंगलमांगल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थ साधिके शरण्ये त्र्यंबके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते. या देवी सर्वभूतेषु महालक्ष्मी रूपेण संस्थिता. नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः. ओम श्रीं ह्रीं श्रीं कमले कमलाले प्रसीद प्रसीद. ओम श्रीं ह्रीं श्रीं श्री महालक्ष्मे नमः. ओम दिवलिंगाय नमः. ऊर्ध्वलिंगाय नमः. आनंदलिंगाय नमः. द्वादश ज्योतिर्लिंगाय नमो नमः. ओम त्र्यंबकमजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्ष्यमामृतात्. ओम नमः शिवाय. ओम श्री दुर्गार्पणमस्तु. ओम श्री राधा कृष्णार्पणमस्तु. ह्रीं